Many of the biggest companies in the world have been sued repeatedly over website accessibility. And this is despite the fact that they have hired digital accessibility providers and paid out tens of thousands of dollars to finally resolve accessibility and end these lawsuits. So why do the lawsuits keep coming? Well, there's an elephant in the room, and at the end of this video, I will tell you what it is. But first, let's start off with the problems with these services. Well, so central to most services is going to be an accessibility audit. And an audit is simply a formal evaluation of a website that results in a report of accessibility issues that reside on the website. So one problem with an audit is it takes 3 to 6 weeks usually to return. And the audit is going to be conclusive of WCAG 2.1 AA issues. So these are technical standards. They have about 50 things to do, and the audit is going to cover all of those different issues. It's going to include accounting for all of those different issues, and in the end, it's going to return any issues that exist on the website. So let's say there are 20 different issues, but then there are hundreds of instances of those issues that reside on the website. Many digital teams become overwhelmed with these issues because they are highly technical, they're not familiar with accessibility, so therein lies some difficulty. Also, the issues are not prioritized. So getting back to litigation, we need to make sure that we are eliminating the issues that represent the most legal risk. These audits do not account for prioritization. They may have level of severity of the issue, but they're not precise and they are not detailed. And there's also really no strategy. So once you get back the audit, at that point, you have to strategically approach accessibility. And for many of these companies, they're not familiar with how to do that. And the digital accessibility providers really aren't familiar with that either in terms of preventing litigation. So when I talk about strategy, part of that is who remediates. There might be more than one person remediating it. In fact, there might be more than one team on remediation. So this is important. Also, how long is remediation going to take? There's usually not an end date. It's just a start, and then we hope it finishes, but we don't know if it will. But there's usually not an end date where this ends. When is it complete? That's similarly, when is it complete? So we need to know when we have actually finished off this task. And so what can happen is if the company purchases support, there will be support tickets back and forth, and that's where things really start to break down because there's a disconnect. There's the technical expertise on one end, and then there's the company on the other. There might be a third-party agency who's responsible for remediation, and things start to break down. There's a trail off, and we might have some accessibility issues that are fixed, others that aren't. We don't know the status of these different accessibility issues. Even if we do, it's difficult to track because, as I mentioned, there are these 20 different issues. There could be hundreds of instances, and this is just an example. But typically, when a website hasn't accounted for accessibility issues, there are many that reside on the website. So then we also have the fact that the design and development teams might be involved in other projects. There might be new projects starting. There might be changes to the website that are made, and at that point, the audit loses freshness. And so it really becomes much more than the company was originally anticipating, and it's not. All of this is not engineered around preventing litigation. Yes, in theory, an audit is exactly what you need, and I offer audits. They're tremendous. They're going to help you know exactly what accessibility issues are on your website. But when it comes to preventing litigation, they're not aligned. The alignment is not there. Similarly, alignment does not take place with scans and reports. So you might pay for a scan and get reports. You might even have monitoring, but that is not aligned with preventing litigation. And that is the elephant in the room. Many of the digital accessibility services and products that are in the market are not aligned with preventing litigation. And so what really needs to happen is there are about 15 different accessibility issues that plaintiffs' law firms look for over and over again, what needs to happen is for the primary pages on your website, you address those 15 issues. And this can be done easily within a matter of 2 weeks when you have focused, concentrated efforts. But if you are distracted with reports and making this a long, ongoing endeavor, you are going to sidetrack your efforts, you're going to be misaligned, and it's going to continue to result in more litigation. And that is what is happening. There is obviously a problem, but nobody's addressing what exactly that problem is and its precision. And really, that doesn't help, right? If we get to the heart of this issue, that doesn't help long engagements with digital accessibility providers and subscriptions. But this is where we need to start. And I do recommend getting an audit, but it is after this, because what we need to do is we need to make sure that we are not sued anymore so that we can invest in accessibility and not invest in paying settlements and dealing with plaintiffs' lawyers and spending our time, money, and energy there. Rather than that, we need to focus first on what plaintiffs' law firms are looking for and then proceed to make our digital experiences completely accessible. But there's no reason that we can't focus on these issues first. So we need to find them, and then we need to fix them. And we need to do so in a strategic manner and one that is not based in perfection. We want to forget about perfection and we want to take immediate action. And when you do that, you're going to reduce your risk of litigation, and then we can start to approach accessibility for full WCAG 2.1 AA conformance, because we do want to be there. We want to make sure that we have optimized our digital assets so that they are completely accessible. But we have to start somewhere, and we might as well start at the accessibility issues that are most likely to lead to litigation. And that is why I created the ADA compliance course. It's to address this elephant in the room that exists in the market. Every day in the market, products and services are being sold that are not aligned with preventing litigation. However, they are mentioning ADA compliance and they are selling these products and services under the guise of ADA compliance, but they're not aligned with immediately stopping litigation. And what we have to keep in mind is there is technical compliance with the ADA and there's practical compliance with the ADA. So best practices for ADA compliance include WCAG 2.1 AA conformance and having an accessibility statement posted on your website, and then making sure that you have contact methods for support and feedback. So there are some more details there, but those are the technical best practices for ADA compliance. But practically, to prevent lawsuits, you need to focus in and eliminate these 15 issues that the most active plaintiffs' law firms are using to give rise to litigation over and over and over again. This is why the big companies keep getting sued, and my ADA compliance course trains your team on how to find and fix these 15 most commonly claimed issues. And I will link to that course below, as well as my WCAG course. So of course we want to make sure that we stop litigation and we prevent any more lawsuits, but then after that we want to make sure our digital assets are 100% accessible and conformant with the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. And so I will also link to my WCAG course below.